In today's video, I am going to be breaking down what a travel really is because there's a lot of misconceptions and there's so many different leagues as well that have different rules. So let's get down, let's check out what a travel really is. Okay, so we have two different clips of David right here, and neither of these are travels. So let's get down and let's really check what this is. Okay, so first off, we're running a drill that's really good for ball handling, but at this point, let's really see where the travel, or if there's even a travel. So first off, he dribbles, he hasn't carried the ball at all, he hasn't gathered, his hand is still at the side of the ball, it's not under the ball just as of yet. At this point, he gathers the ball right here. We have to understand what a carry really is. And a carry is when you get your full hand under the imaginary line halfway on the basketball. So at this point, he has picked up the ball. After he crosses through his legs and he crosses back, he takes a step forward with his right foot. That's where he gathers on his right foot. At this time, he takes a left step. That's one step now, and then two steps. Now, depending on your league, if you play FIBA rules, which is International Basketball Association rules, the whole entire world, except for one country, runs FIBA rules. And in FIBA rules, you are allowed two steps after the gather. But it gets murky because the gather is on the right foot. It goes left foot, right foot. Now, if you stop on the right foot and you don't do anything at all, if your forward progression is finished and you don't release the ball, or you don't jump to release the ball, now it's a travel. However, David continues his forward momentum and he jumps, and he then finishes with a left hand layup. This is not a travel in FIBA rules. FIBA rules are very similar to the NBA, where as soon as you gather, which his hand, again, constitutes a gather right there on his right foot, takes a left step, right step, two steps. NBA and FIBA, that is legal. However, in AAU, which is American Amateur Basketball, also in the NCAA, which is American University, this would technically be classified as a travel because you are not, depending on the referee, because the rule book is not very straightforward. Believe me, there are rules that contradict other rules. If you really look close, a lot of referees will say that this right here is the pivot foot. This is what would classify as the pivot foot in FIBA, in which case, after the gather, which would be right here, you cannot pick up this foot and put it back down, which means that you are allowed two steps in AAU rules, depending on the referee, however. Other referees and the rule book, unless you look and dig deep in other portions, says that this is the pivot foot, in which case you can't pick it up and put it back down, which then would make this a travel, which means that in an AAU or NCAA rules, you are only allowed to take one step and then you need to go up for your layup. Very similar to this, where David crosses over, he gathers on his right foot once again, and then takes one step and goes up for that layup, opposite foot to hand. No matter what league, this is legal because you're allowed to take one step, at least in every single league. However, depending on the referee, again now, they may constitute that this right here, when he gets that ball right there, they could say that this could be a gather because his hand is underneath the ball. But then, if you go through a few frames, his hand is now on the side of the ball. So did he really have that ball in his hand to constitute it being a gather? See how difficult it is for referees to call travels. That's why a lot of players are getting away with 3 steps, 4 steps, or more, because it all comes down to when you gather and the foot or feet that you are on. And with players moving faster than ever before, and players like David has a very good example understanding how to manipulate the rules. For example, he can push the ball so far forward, he has such long arms, and such long legs that allows him to take 3 or even 4 steps before he even touches the ball yet again. And then you can take 2 steps for the layup in FIBA rules, and depending on where you gather, 1 step, 2 steps in AAU, and depending on the refs. So you could technically get away with 6 to even 8 steps with only 1 dribble, and at that point, a lot of people who may not be looking at it as closely as a referee may think that the player is traveling, but when in reality they are not. Anyways, I hope that this makes sense, because understanding and calling travels is extremely hard. Between this and the offensive charge for referees, those are the 2 hardest calls to make in basketball, at least in my opinion. I hope that this video has helped you understand what a travel is. If it has, hit that like button and subscribe. If you would like some custom basketball training programs, make sure to go check out the link down in the description below.